for the city charter. Our city charter, I think, was adopted in 1961, and I really don't think we've updated much of anything in it really since. So there are, the proposals that I'm bringing forward that we'll discuss in a little bit here are going to mostly revolve around voter engagement, issues of equity, quality of representation, and basically finding ways to strengthen our local democracy. With that, I guess, hand it over to Councilmember Lawson so she can talk about her proposal as well.
I guess, well, I'm not going to talk about the proposals. I'll get into that. But for the mission, for me, like Councilmember Marcano said, it's old from 1961. But what I think is imperative, and I kind of want to know about the structure before we start really diving into things, is how are we going to make sure that we kind of engage the community in this effort too? And I know that's going to be important for me. We can have our own personal things that we want to do, but I think this charter, how are we going to get it out to the community? Because that's kind of what I want to hear as well. So I guess for me, the mission as well is to kind of look at this from a different, maybe another standpoint as well, with the community involvement and kind of looking at the time frame of how this should be evaluated within a certain time frame, not just we're doing it now and it's going to take a lot of time to do this depending on what topics, but are we going to kind of have this where we're going to have hearings or somebody or some type of community forum? Because to me, that's kind of why I wanted to pursue this. I have a couple things, some things I want to pursue personally, but that's basically my bigger picture of what this should be. So I think we might have a little bit of a difference. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I look at it.
Can I respond?
Sure.
So I do have a draft which I will send along to each of you of a resolution for a community or a citizen charter review committee. An ordinance for a citizen charter review committee. So I'll send that all along to all of you. I know we had discussed previously having that. So just wanted to make sure you know that is underway. I do have a draft that I've received from the city attorney's office. And then also, Mayor Pro Tem, I had also requested this and I hadn't heard any call for members. So I don't know if there's still openings for additional members.
Well, this came up with Councilmember Marcano and Councilmember Lawson. So we just basically, as the Mayor Pro Tem, apparently I chair ad hoc committees. So it ended up being a committee of 3, but if we want to do, if other people want to be on the committee, certainly I'm not opposed to that.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I just make a suggestion? I know we have this agenda, but to me, I thought this first meeting was really going to be kind of the logistical piece. How we're going to do this? Are we adding members? I know Councilmember Coombs has her ordinance and everything, but before we're kind of getting into how is this going to be structured?
Well, that's what we're on, mission and goals. So we're talking.
Look, that's mission and goals. That's not, to me, structure about how we're starting from the beginning with this.
Okay. Well, if a goal is to structure it a certain way, we can talk about structuring it.
Yeah. And Mayor Pro Tem, can I just chime in for a moment?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Lawson, I completely agree with what you said about getting public engagement as well. My recollection is when we discussed this, and if someone from legal is on the call, maybe correct me if I'm misremembering, but if we wanted to do a citizen engagement process for charter review, basically there were like 2 different ways that we could accomplish it. One was a commission, like Councilmember Coombs is going to set up, and then the other would have to be through council. And I guess there was like a step that seemed a little daunting for some reason to kind of like merge both. So that's why I think we have the 2 different entities currently, or one's in the works and this one's currently set up. And then I think we'll be able to merge both at the end, at least the findings that come out, right? And then maybe through like Engage Aurora or something like that, get public feedback, or just hold, forums, which I love doing, talk about them at our ward meetings or like our collective at-large meetings as well. And then from that process, be able to refer stuff to the ballot. Was that your recollection as well, Councilmember Lawson, or staff, if I'm misremembering how that conversation went? 'Cause I think it was a little bit over a month ago at this point.
I don't quite remember it as that, but I mean, if that's the direction, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that direction, but if that's what we've decided, then I guess that makes sense. I have to ponder on that though.
So what I'm hearing is, I mean, obviously this is a committee to take a look at the charter, whatever proposals are coming forward from council members that want changes. I thought we were going to make proposals and then kind of like the rules committee, it goes from our committee to study session. And then, you know, and then it would move forward like everything else does to the floor for a vote on any changes. And a charter change does have to go to the voters, my understanding. So anything that we propose, that was the process I was thinking of following, was go from here, go to study session, have conversation about it, and then go to our regular council meeting where public can comment on agendas, on agenda items. So they would have input at that point from the public invited to be heard. And then the decision would be at the regular meeting, the decision is would whatever item A, B, C, you know, would we all be in favor of it going to the voters for a vote?
Okay.
And
So
then
this is
timing, I
basically
think-
for our agenda items, what we particularly want to focus on the thing. Okay, so I got them kind of mixed up, but I still believe that for me, and I'll deal with that, is, you know, some involvement of what other things should be changed, but I understand.
So I do have a little confusion because I thought that the idea of having a citizen committee is that they could also review the items that we put forward and send us items as well. That just as there are other boards and commissions that give presentations to committees, that committee, we're not calling it a committee, not a commission, because a commission apparently is a whole other, a charter commission is a whole other very onerous process, but the citizen committee could make reports to us, not necessarily just one big one at the end, but periodically with things that they would like to see change.
So is everyone thinking of whatever changes are being proposed that this would be put on the November 23 ballot?
I mean, I suspect that there's going to need to be some ongoing review. So I was thinking like there would be some things that would go to, obviously there's stuff that's had to be referred to the 2022 ballot, to the 23 ballot, and then maybe ongoing, right? Because part of the reason we got here is because we don't do this enough. So that would be my thought, is that it could be an ongoing kind of process to some degree, and we can talk about, you know, maybe not every year, but every few years.
Okay, but at the same time, I mean, when you say ongoing, there's got to be, I'm sure somebody wants to bring something forward in pretty soon, correct? Or do you all want to wait 10 years to have it go to the voters?
No, I think that
Well,
there's.
no, like each year.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Councilmember Coons.
Oh, no, sorry, you go ahead.
Go ahead, Councilmember Lawson.
I think there are some things that we want to bring forward for 2023. So
Okay.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think that is something that we want to work, you know, we have the kind of the short term and the long term.
Right.
That's how I'm kind of looking
And
at
that's
this.
what I wanted clarified, because that was my understanding that you do have, I mean, obviously Councilmember Marcano already has articles to be reviewed. So I wanted to just make sure that, you know, we're all in agreement that some things are going to go, or trying to go, to the November 23 ballot for the voters. And I guess my thought is, if for those items that are already identified that get through the process of this committee and study session and to the regular meeting, that we have to just keep in mind the timeline, because I can't remember if it's August that things have to be put on the, or, you know, ready to go on the ballot.
This is
that right?
Katie. Yes, the IGAs have to be approved by August 30th
Okay,
to coordinate with the county. So this year for the November 2020 election, you would have to have the ordinances, go through study session, first reading, second reading, and then also have it included in the IGA that's due by August 30th.
so I don't see
Yeah.
that.
And then for the November 2023 election,
Uh-huh.
I would need to let them know that we are intending to coordinate, which we would be anyways, because we do have candidates that in July, and then the same thing, August 30th is whenever we have to sign the IGA.
Okay, so August 30th of 2023, and then, so just keeping in mind the calendar and just working backwards from that. So, I mean, it looks like we have plenty of time, since we're not trying to get it on this November. Is everyone good with that? Okay, so, and what I'm hearing is, so we have certain immediate items that we'd like to have on the November 2023 ballot, but then we'll want to continue to have ongoing discussions and ongoing, just dialogue about what other changes might need to happen in the charter. And
Yes.
so, Member Coombs, with your charter review committee, I guess that kind of falls into line with that ongoing.
Well, I think also for the stuff that's coming in 2023, because that'll be approved fairly soon. So they'll be able to hear stuff that's coming for 2023 and maybe recommend some changes that they want to see come forward by 2023. So I think, at least for that duration. And then there was a question of whether or not it would end up becoming a, kind of more standing citizen committee or not. And I think that's up for discussion. I didn't have a definite feeling about how that needed to be. So that's up for discussion if folks want to see that be an ongoing committee that continues to make recommendations to council.
And I guess my concern, I understand the need for having it now to review and then maybe periodically bring it back in play. But as you know, we have over 20 current commissions and boards and commissions. Not everyone continues to participate in those. If you ever look at the attendance on some of those, it's not very good. So I just don't want it to be like a committee that, doesn't do anything for, like then maybe they do immediate work, but then it just dies off. And yet we keep having vacancies and so forth. So I don't know how, think about that, I guess, in how you want to structure it.
Yeah, and that was some of the conversation that I had with the city attorney's office as we were discussing it, was maybe it could be something that happens periodically, but not all the time. And so again, I think that's just up for discussion among council of what folks think will be best. I don't have a strong opinion on that.
Okay.
Mayor Pro
So-
Tem, and then just on that subject, just to comment on that subject, I think that whenever we decide on that, it's going to be decided, you have to look at the opportunity as this council evolves over years. Are we, I think that that's going to be important too, because if you set something definitely in stone, then what about the evolution of the council? Which people
sure.
might have other, so I think that that's going to be really important in the consideration of the time frame of when this is reviewed. I'm not saying do it every year or whatever, but I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, and I think I heard Councilmember Coombs wants it to be, some type of ongoing, but the timing is not 100% decided. So, maybe it could be every 4 years, it could be every 2 years, every 6 years, whatever. I mean, obviously we haven't done this since 1961, so.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is actually something that I think several of us talked to our former clerk about right before COVID. And we were informed that where he comes from, they do have a Citizens Charter Review Commission that meets basically twice a decade, so every 5 years.
Oh.
And then out of that, they get a couple of things. I think the first time they convened, there were a lot of changes because they were probably in a similar situation to us. And then after that, it's much, much lighter, I guess is what comes out
Right.
of there.
And you
So-
have to keep in mind that anything that is proposed is potentially to go to the ballot. So,
Exactly.
you know, then keep that in mind. I mean, I don't think we're going to be wanting to do, changes every year and having ballot questions for voters every single year.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's something that needs to be reviewed periodically, right?
And then Katie, so when, does it matter? I mean, is it from a cost perspective, if you have 3 items going to the voters or 5 items going to the voters, does the cost increase with more ballot questions?
It does, yeah. So it depends on how lengthy the questions are, and also when you're going to hold the coordinated election. So if it's during a midterm election, that's going to be more expensive because there's more VSPC locations in Arapahoe County. The way that they adjust the rate for people is according to how many jurisdictions coordinate with them and how many VSPC locations they have. So it can be more expensive at different elections and according to how lengthy the questions are.
Okay, so how lengthy the questions are, but also how many questions?
So it's space. It has to do with space. It doesn't have to do with how many questions. So how much space it takes up. They'll charge you additional for that. And then if it's like I said, a midterm election, for example, is going to be more expensive than a regular coordinated election.
Okay, and then obviously we have 3 counties, so yeah, coordinate with the 3 counties. Okay, any questions about the process on getting it to the ballot? No, okay. Okay, so as far as structure, I mean, I think I see 2 things going on. This committee that would propose things, getting feedback from the other citizen charter review committee, and then moving forward to bring it to study session, I guess consolidating those and then bringing it forward to study session and to the regular meeting.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. Okay,
Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, I do wonder though too, if the idea of having public hearings would be beneficial, because you might get folks attending that aren't attending the citizen committee. And since we do have time, like maybe we do sort of a hybrid situation between the citizen committee and other public comment opportunities.
well, okay, I mean, my opinion on that is, if we do one maybe, but you've got the citizen committee where there's going to be input from those on the committee. You're going to have, anybody certainly could email us, but then they also will have opportunities, once it gets to the regular meeting for public invited. So, I mean, I think there will be ample opportunity to hear from our citizens. I mean, are you thinking one public hearing? But, based on a number of proposals?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Once we have like a whole kind of series of proposals before it goes to the ballot, maybe just like a public education forum or hearing or something along those lines.
And Katie, on that, when we do a public hearing, what's the process for that?
So if you're going to have an ad hoc committee do these public hearings, I believe you're going to have to go to study session and get that approved by a majority of council. And the city attorney's office, if I'm incorrect, please jump in. But I believe that's what we had to do for the red tape policy or ad hoc committee. So it would need to be the hearing dates would need to be set and approved at a study session.
Yeah, that's what I read.
And that's exactly right.
So just a question on that. So would somebody from this committee would need to initiate that? I think that that's a good plan because the commission, the community commission that we're trying to establish, that's going to take a minute to get organized. But the things that we're bringing forward now, I think we probably should start having that engagement, getting input. So I do think that that's going to be kind of the priority first to kind of maybe get the hearing foundation established. That's just my thoughts. Council, I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Marcano?
I'm sorry?
Councilmember Marcano, your thoughts?
Okay, you were both talking at the same time.
Sorry.
Sorry. No, yeah, that sounds agreeable to me. I want to make sure that we're just finding a way to bring both of the channels, into some kind of harmony, right? And I don't want folks to feel like they're competing with one another either. So I just want to make sure that it's that we're pushing in the same direction to bring things forward, and then, decide one way or another whether they shall appear in the ballot. So.
Okay, so as far as moving forward, while Councilmember Coombs is working on getting the new committee formed, that has to be approved by council, and then the public hearing part, we would be able to work through the articles for review, right? And then just that determines how far, like at what point we want to then do the public hearing.
Mhm.
Okay, if that makes sense. And then the public hearing would precede us going to study session. Is that? How's that work?
Timing there is interesting. Because if we're going to do a formal public hearing, would that be done during a council meeting? Is that what we're looking at? Or are we looking at a separate kind of thing that we're calling a public hearing?
Yeah, the red tape we did separate.
Yeah.
I was thinking separate personally,
Okay. Yeah. So we could do those public hearings then through this committee.
right?
Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm okay with doing it through the committee before study.
Mayor
All
Pro
right.
Tem,
Yes.
I'm going to throw a question out to Katie. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking when this committee was formed, that question was actually presented at the study session. Katie, can you either confirm or figure out that I'm nuts and I'm misremembering?
Might be correct. Let me double check right now and I'll let you know.
Thank you.
So while we're checking on that, do we want to go ahead and today start with the first one that Councilmember Marcano has proposed?
Well, I had a question on that actually, Mayor Pro Tem.
Go ahead.
So, because we were asked to provide, articles that we are interested in, I thought it was kind of more to set like the agenda for future meetings.
Oh, okay.
Because I do have some backup that I could fish out of my email, because these are some of these things I've already, done some work on. But I thought that it was more just to kind of like get a high level understanding of, these different sections. And then the folks who want to, move forward some of the discussions here then need to go prepare their backup and then bring it to a future meeting, right?
Yeah. and
Otherwise, I
I'm
would have
good with-
attached a bunch of stuff to this already.
Okay. So that sounds, I'm fine with that. Councilmember Lawson and Councilmember Coombs, are you okay with at the next meeting, then we would have the backup and be able to start on some of these proposals?
Yes,
Good
I'm
for me.
fine with that. And then I just have just a procedural question. So I have a few, but I do want to, as Councilmember Marcano has all his already done, which is fantastic. I still am kind of in review. So do I need to provide that information prior to the next meeting with the backup, or just?
I think, it's up to you on your timing. It's, we're going to start with probably at the next meeting, we'll start with his. And
Okay.
so depending upon, how much time each one requires for discussion, you could have it ready and then we put it kind of in sequence. Or you
Okay,
can,
so we're,
but if you need more time, I think you're going to be okay. Like if you want to not have it next meeting, but the following meeting, I'm sure you'll be just fine, because it's going to take some time to go through these.
okay, all right. I just wanted to know procedurally how we want to submit. So thank you.
Okay. So I think that's kind of good that we'll just go ahead and move those to the next meeting. Is everyone good on process procedure at this point?
I'm good with process and procedure. I guess if this is a committee, are we still working on the mission and goals, or we're just kind of looking at what Councilmember Coombs has? I'm trying to understand that part of the agenda.
Yeah, I think in mission and goals, and part of what we've all just now been discussing in the goals is how we want it structured. If we want a public hearing, which we agreed we do,
Okay.
and the citizen committee as well. So I think we, for today, kind of thinking we're done unless there's other questions on how we're going to structure everything.
Well, I think we should clarify like what our goals are, because we've kind of included them in what we're saying as we go along, but I think we should just have a little bit of formal discussion of like, what is the mission? What are the goals? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause that's what
in
I
a
thought I
formal
heard from
proposal.
Councilmember Lawson and Marcano at the beginning.
So I think each of us might have, I know I did, I think Councilmember Lawson did as well, sent over like what we thought like the statement basically for the goals for the committee should be. That's something that each committee that we have, you know, even our standing committees have. So I thought that was kind of what we were trying to agree on with item A on the agenda, right? And I don't think we really discussed that.
Oh, okay. So I was taking notes on what you were saying. You talked about voter engagement, quality of engagement.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I thought I misinterpreted that original question because I thought it was like, what am I personally trying to
Oh,
move
okay.
forward? Yeah, no, for the committee, I think we had sent ahead of time, I think
What
like suggestions for the goal and all that. Yeah.
So
So let me see if I can
I
find that in
think
my
the goal of
inbox.
the committee is to review the charter, update the charter, and make changes as appropriate. I mean, I don't think it has to be anything really, I mean, it's pretty basic, is that's what we're doing. We're reviewing it. We're making sure that it's updated in compliance with possibly state statute, and that, and we're making changes based on current, I don't know how you want to state that, but
Yes, ma'am. No, I agree. I don't think it has to be anything super flowery. Here, this is what I found out, what I had sent over. It's to examine the charter of the city of Aurora and recommend amendments for consideration.
yeah, perfect.
There we go.
Is everybody good with that one? I'm good with it.
I'm fine with that. That'll work.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Katie,
Mayor Pro Tem, yeah, so the agenda commentary for when this went to council, it does state, does council want to authorize the committee to use public hearings as a method to seek resident input? So that was included, but I'm going to defer to the city attorney's office. I'm not sure if you have to provide them with a specific schedule.
Katie, what meeting was that so I can go back and print
That was the May 16th study session.
Okay,
And I'll send the backup to everybody.
okay. Okay, so we have the mission. So should we just make sure, can we just make sure we have our kind of discussion of the goals?
I mean, I think we just discussed the goals.
I mean, kind of. I think that's the mission, but maybe goals are like to, you know, ensure that the charter is up to date and consistent with current practices, ensure citizen engagement in changes made to the charter, things along those lines.
Yeah. Which I think that's what I said, but maybe I'm not saying it specifically that should be a goal, but I thought I said that.
Right. I think at kind of as you were summarizing what people said. So if we want to make those the goals, I think that's okay with me, but I don't know if folks have other goals they want to indicate.
Okay, so we've got the mission, the goals, and Councilmember Lawson, I mean, we would include yours was community input, and however we want to state that in you know, community engagement or input.
I guess for me, to me, this is kind of a draft. So what we're speaking, doing a verbal draft. So I would probably, for me, maybe if we can have what we said written down and then
we
at the
review it.
next meeting, we can review and then I can kind of, because I have to kind of review things like that. So this is like a verbal draft, but yes.
No, I agree, and it's nice to see it in
Yeah,
writing.
right. So if
Okay.
we could have those things kind of written out, then and if we could come back and then if we need to add or formalize or revise, that would be better. That would be my suggestion.
Sounds good. Everybody good with that?
Works for me.
Okay,
Yep.
well, anything else added to the goals?
I think Councilmember Coombs was trying to say something.
Member Coombs, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't think I had anything else besides what I was saying. So I think the only thing we didn't really say explicitly in our prior discussion was just to make sure that the charter is up to date and consistent with current city practices and city needs.
Right. Okay. I guess whoever is taking minutes on this, Katie, somebody is capturing all this.
Yes, we're recording it and we'll have our vendor that does all the policy committees and the council
Okay. So
transcribe it.
kind of wordsmith
Mhm.
what we just said.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Medina, did you want to say anything or have any input?
I am good with everything so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. With that, so we'll come back the next meeting. We'll review the mission that was drafted. We'll review kind of the goals and see if we need to make any changes. We also will be able to start on the articles for review that are on today's agenda, but we'll have backup for us as well. And I think that's it, other than coming up with a new meeting date.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I just ask Katie just a question? Just prior, we haven't set our next meeting date, but is it possible to get the minutes so we can kind of review those that has this information so we can how far in advance can we get that? Is it like the other committee meetings that we have? Where we get review of the minutes? I mean, I know Pfizer gets some PED where we can all review them as a committee. And
Yes.
make revisions.
Yeah, we can send it out to you guys before your next meeting to review.
Okay.
And then I'm not quite sure. I guess it depends on when you have your next meeting scheduled. We'll try
Okay.
to get those fast tracked for you guys.
Okay.
All right. Anything else before we try to schedule dates? Oh, and I was going to say I know you guys are capturing this as well as far as the discussion on the public hearing, the timeline, all that, and the citizen committee will all be captured in the minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Mayor Pro Tem? Did anyone have anything on section D? Any additional articles that they wanted to add to that list already?
Well, I do have one, Councilmember Marcano, so thank you for bringing that up. Article 3, Section 3-6, salaries. And I guess I'll just say that's going to be in line with my proposal for a full-time council. So I'm just relating that to that.
Right.
Okay. So our Article 3, Section 3-6, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
It's salaries, but it's in relation to proposal for a full-time council.
Okay.
All right. And Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, go ahead.
I may. Just a suggestion, maybe then rather than take some of these discussions in the order in which they're listed in this list, I think some of them are going to probably interrelate or even have to be discussed before than a previous section. So I want to make sure that we work that flexibility into our agenda.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we have it, so we can maybe take a look at before the next meeting and look at what makes sense to combine and start with first.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
thank you for recognizing me. I just have one suggestion, if I may be so bold, is Councilmember Coombs' ordinance that we've drafted for the committee. Perhaps that should be placed on the agenda for the next meeting so that you all have the opportunity to review it.
Perfect.
And then get input before it would go to the full council.
That sounds like a great idea.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I just ask one question to the city attorney's office? Right now, we're going to be having a question regarding the qualification of elected officers. So if that passes, then that would be changed automatically in the charter. Is that correct? I just want to.
Correct. With an affirmative vote, that will be changed.
Okay.
And that's already being referred, right? Like we already said as a council, yes, we're going to refer that because we need to, right?
Correct. That was finalized at the last meeting.
That's last
So
meeting.
that question will appear this November on the ballot.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other further questions or comments before we set the next meeting date? Okay. Are Tuesdays good for everybody?
Pretty much. Yeah.
I know it's hard our calendars get so full.
Yeah.
How about August 2nd? That's 2 weeks, or is that too close? Maybe I could do
That would work for me. I can move my 2:30 meeting.
I actually do happen to have a meeting that day that I cannot move.
okay.
It's been on my calendar for about 6 months.
Is it the same time then?
Yeah, it is, unfortunately. It is, well, it's at 3, but I don't think we'll be done by 3.
If we do it 2 o'clock? Or do you have to travel somewhere for it?
I believe, you know what, let me look at the invite, because we've been doing virtual, but that doesn't mean that it still is. I apologize. It doesn't say. I'm gonna assume that it is in person,
Okay, so
because everything's been switching back to in person
okay.
for my
I
day
can't-
job. So,
I can't do the 9th, so then we'd be looking at the 16th.
or could we do a day other than Tuesday?
We can do that. We can look at. Let's see. Actually, how is Thursday, August 4th?
Ooh.
Open for me other than an 11 o'clock.
Yeah, and I have a 11.
Yeah,
Do we all have something at 11?
the 4th and 5th are shot for me. So
4th and 5th, okay.
Yep.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, actually, I forgot. I have an event those days as well.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilmember
But
Marcano.
it's just my Wednesdays and Thursdays are really bad.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Tuesday tends to be
The better day.
the
for
better
me.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Is there any way that we
Could
could
we
just,
just do earlier in the day on the 2nd?
On the 2nd, yeah, I'm open earlier, like 11 o'clock.
Yeah, as long as we're done by like 2, I'm good.
Oh, yeah. This should not be more than a 90-minute meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so how about the 2nd at 11 for everybody?
Works for me.
yep. And then moving forward, I will hold the afternoon slot open. Sorry about that. That was just
That's okay.
a long-standing meeting.
All right, Katie, did you get that August 2nd at 11?
Yes, we'll have Adrian send out the invitations, and then I think the mayor council office will send out the agenda packet.
Okay, and that gives just about 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, so we should be able to get the minutes.
Yes.
I mean, even if we get them that beginning of that first week, I think we'll be good.
Okay.
Okay,
okay?
I think that's it. So off to a good start. Appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you,
All
everybody.
right,
Have a
thank
good
you.
afternoon.
All right, take
You
care, y'all.
too.
See you soon.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye.